To my channel, and today I tell Persian version of Cinderella tale. Cinderella has to do all the chores for her stepmother and wears her stepsister's old clothes. Jealous of her beauty and good nature, they mock her rags until she feels ashamed. Meanwhile, the king invites everyone to the new year. No ruse, celebration. Instead of buying a dress, Cinderella spends her money on others in need and an unusual blue jug, which turns out to be enchanted. She wishes for a beautiful gown for no ruse. At the celebration, she meets a handsome prince, but has to flee dramatically to avoid her stepmother, and in so doing, loses her anklet. The prince eventually finds Cinderella, but her jealous sisters find the jug and wish to be rid of her. 6 jeweled hairpins appear, which they pin into Cinderella's hair, turning her into a... Although the prince thinks he has lost her, Cinderella, the bird, sings to hing each evening. One night, he sees the pins, pulls them out, and so sets Cinderella free. They live happily ever after it. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Back to my channel, and today I will tell you Cinderella in Kenya. Kenya's cruel stepmother sends her into the night forest to fetch water, but instead of attacking her, the animals keep her safe. On her return, Chini meets an old woman who asks her to sweep her hut. She tells Chini to take the tiniest, quietest gourd from the floor and break it open at home. When Chini does so, treasure spills out of the gourd. Her greedy stepsister dashes off to find the old woman's hut, but instead of sweeping the floor and taking the tiniest gourd, she grabs the largest and scurries home. Instead of treasure, a swarm of vicious wasps bursts out, forcing the stepmother and stepsister to flee. Chini is alone, but instead of spending her wealth on herself, she invites the village women to share it and build a thriving community. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Welcome back to my channel, and today we'll normo of Cinderella, the happy life and loss. Once upon a time, a kind-hearted girl named Cinderella lived with her loving parents. Sadly, her mother passed away, and her father remarried a woman who had 2 daughters of her own. When Cinderella's father also passed away, the stepmother's jealousy surfaced. She forced Cinderella to become a servant in her own home, making her wear rags, do all the chores, and sleep by the fireplace, leaving her covered in ashes, which earned her the name Cinderella. The royal invitation one day, the king announced a royal ball, inviting all eligible young women in the kingdom so the prince could choose a bride. The stepsisters were ecstatic and kept Cinderella busy preparing their dresses. When Cinderella asked to go, her stepmother refused, giving her impossible chores instead. The fairy godmother, after the family left, Cinderella sat in the garden weeping. Suddenly, her fairy godmother appeared. With a wave of her wand, she transformed a pumpkin into a magnificent carriage, mice into horses, a rat into a driver, and lizards into footmen. Finally, she turned Cinderella's rags into a breathtaking gown and gifted her delicate glass slippers. The fairy godmother warned her that the magic would last only until midnight. The ball and the flight at the ball. Cinderella was so beautiful that no one recognized her, not even her. The prince was captivated and danced only with her all evening. Remembering the warning, Cinderella fled the palace as the clock began to strike midnight, losing one of her glass slippers on the stairs. The search and happily ever after, the prince, now in love, declared he would marry the woman whose foot fit the slipper. His attendants went to every house in the kingdom. When they arrived at Cinderella's home, the stepsisters tried to force their feet into the slipper, but it was too small. Cinderella, locked in the attic by her stepmother, managed to escape with the help of her mice friends. She tried on the slipper, and it fit perfectly. She then produced the matching slipper from her pocket. The prince recognized her, and they were married. Cinderella, being kind-hearted, forgave her stepsisters, and they all lived happily ever after it. Do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and today I will tell you Cinderella in American. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a young girl named Cinderella. She was a kind, gentle, and beautiful child with the most radiant smile. Cinderella had a heart full of love, but unfortunately, fate hadn't been kind to Cinderella. Her mother had passed away, leaving her alone with her selfish stepmother. The stepmother had 2 daughters of her own, and she was terribly jealous of Cinderella's beauty and kind heart. She treated Cinderella unfairly, making her do all the housework and dress in rags, while her own daughters wore fine clothes and lived in luxury. Despite the cruelty she faced, Cinderella remained kind and gentle, never letting her stepmother's unkindness change who she was. She would often seek comfort in the garden, talking to the birds and the animals, who had become her dearest friends. One day, the kingdom received exciting news. The prince was hosting a grand ball at the palace, and every maiden in the land was invited. Cinderella's stepsisters were overjoyed and spent weeks preparing their gowns and practicing their dance moves. Cinderella watched the stepsisters with a sad smile, hoping she might be able to attend the ball and experience a bit of the magic she had heard about in her mother's stories. But her stepmother was insistent that Cinderella would stay home and continue with her chores. The night of the ball arrived, and Cinderella was left alone in her old clothes, while her stepsisters and stepmother departed for the palace. She sat by the fireplace, tears in her eyes, wishing for just a taste of the magic her mother had told her about. Suddenly, a soft, sweet voice filled the room. It was her fairy godmother, a beautiful figure surrounded by a soft, glowing light. "Why are you crying, my dear?" the fairy godmother asked. Cinderella explained her wish to attend the ball, but how her stepmother had been unkind and refused to allow her to go. The fairy godmother smiled and said, "Don't worry, my child. You shall go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, Cinderella's rags were transformed into a stunning gown, and on her feet, she wore the most delicate glass slippers that sparkled like stars. Her fairy godmother turned a pumpkin into a magnificent carriage and mice into beautiful horses, so Cinderella could travel to the palace in style. Before she left, the fairy godmother gave Cinderella a piece of advice. "Remember, my dear, the magic will only last until midnight. When the clock strikes 12, you must leave the palace and return home." Cinderella thanked her fairy godmother and climbed into the magical carriage. As she arrived at the palace, she felt like a princess, her heart dancing with joy. The moment Cinderella entered the ballroom, the entire room fell silent. The prince, charmed by her beauty, approached her, and they danced together like a dream. Cinderella was the happiest she had ever been, but as the hours flew by, she suddenly heard the bells of the palace clock. The first stroke of midnight sent a shiver down her spine. She remembered her fairy godmother's warning and knew she must leave. Cinderella hurriedly said goodbye to the prince and fled from the palace. As she ran down the grand staircase, one of her glass slippers slipped off her foot. She didn't have time to retrieve it, and so, with only one glass slipper, she disappeared into the night. Cinderella's beautiful gown and glass slippers turned back into rags, leaving her with only the memory of the enchanting evening she had spent at the palace. The next day, the prince was determined to find the owner of the glass slipper. He and his attendants traveled throughout the kingdom, visiting every home to see if the slipper would fit any young maiden. When they arrived at Cinderella's cottage, her stepsisters eagerly tried to fit their feet into the glass slipper, but it was too small for them, and their feet simply couldn't squeeze in. Cinderella watched, hidden from view, as her stepsisters attempted to trick the prince. Then, she stepped forward and, with a hopeful heart, asked, "May I try?" The prince agreed, and as she placed her foot into the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. The princess' eyes lit up with joy as he realized he had found the maiden he had danced with at the ball. Cinderella's stepsisters were astonished and upset, but even though they were mean to her, Cinderella didn't feel angry. Instead, she forgave them for their unkindness, as she believed that kindness was the most important thing in the world. And so, Cinderella was reunited with the prince, and they lived happily ever after, proving that goodness, kindness, and a loving heart could overcome the challenges life may bring. The end. Moral of the story: being kind and having a loving heart can help you through tough times. Even though Cinderella faced meanness and hard work, she stayed kind and gentle, and her goodness led to her happiness and success. The story also shows the importance of forgiveness, as Cinderella forgave her stepsisters, teaching us that being kind and forgiving are very important. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Welcome back to my channel, and today I will sing poem on Cinderella. In a world where dreams take flight, in the gentle glow of the night, there lived a girl, so kind and fair, a heart of gold, beyond compare. Cinderella was her name. You see, a spirit pure, full of empathy. Amidst the ashes, she found her grace in that humble, quiet, hidden place. Her stepmother, cold as ice, with stepsisters far from nice,
made her toil from dawn till dusk. In her spirit, they planted noxious husk. But through it all, her spirit soared. With kindness, she was richly stored. For in her heart, a dream took hold. A tale of magic yet to be told. A royal ball, a chance to shine. In a gown so radiant, so divine. With the help of friends, so small. A pumpkin turned into a splendid hall. And there she danced, in moonlight's gleam. A vision fair, like in a dream. With every step, her heart took flight, as the prince was captivated by her light. But, alas, the clock struck the hour. The spell would fade, like a fragile flower. In haste, she fled, the palace grand, leaving behind a glass slipper in the center. Hermit sought his love, with the slipper as a sign from above. To every house, he took the shoe, seeking the one his heart just knew. And when at last, Cinderella stood, in rags no more, her spirit soared. Her kindness, courage, and grace revealed. In the arms of love, her fate was sealed. So, remember well, this tale so old, of a girl with a heart of gold. In Cinderella of story, we find our song that kindness and love can right the wrong. Do not forget to like and subscribe!
Do not forget to like, subscribe, comment and share this video. Do not forget to like, subscribe, comment and share this video.